10 games, but the 10 games only took a week. I mean, if you're talking with like Warcraft 3 or Spore, it's a lifespan to get 10 games out. Yeah. So what is a game in 7 days? The idea is to make a game in under a week, thus forcing you to adapt to the very harsh time limit. Very, very harsh. I'll get to this later, but basically fixing things sort of takes a second place to jury-rigging it and hoping it works. It forces very, very simple choices. Hey look, I can't do that in a week. Oh well, we're not having that. And the success-failure feedback loop is a huge deal. It means I made a game. My first game in a week was called The Elf's Adventures. I made it to teach my sister multiplication. It wasn't that good. Her kindergarten, or her third grade class, or whatever, we're using it for a bit. But what it did is it taught me a lot of things. An artist friend grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and taught me color theory, because he's like, my God, you need to learn this. But the thing is I just made a game. I got lots of benefits from making a game. Heck, I got to put I've made a game on my resume. I mean, I've done it before, but now I've had multiple games. And then the next week, literally 7 days later, I made another one. Yeah, so I got a whole list of exact good things later. Okay, so there's one huge problem for this. They don't make money. They just do not make money. You are not, that really screwed me over for a while, because mentally, when I was working on a large game, I was thinking, this might make money. I might be a millionaire. I could fly off to Hawaii. But you won't. I mean, that's the thing. My first game made just enough so I could scrape by. You don't become millionaires. Yeah, we read about all the indies who succeed, but it's just statistically not going to happen. It's much better to plan to pay the rent. So small games have no chance of making money, except they have a much better chance of succeeding and turning into a large project, which has a much better chance of making money. Crayon Physics Deluxe was based on Crayon Physics. Crayon Physics had already had a following from 2 years, like from the game in a week. It had a following of, I don't know, 80,000 people or something, which is, sales-wise, enough to pay the rent for quite a while. It makes the game worthwhile. So yeah, I've already gone over this. Working on a large project on your own is prone to failure. Making games in a few months is a great way to increase your ability to properly design, build, and finish a game. I want to emphasize finish, because I have like 70 odd projects in my folder that I haven't finished. Everybody has these. I mean, some people have 5, some people have 70. I'm on the 70 side of the scale, but finishing is hard. Finishing large games is insanely hard. It takes money, it takes time. And games in a week are a great way to just get used to finishing games. Like I have, before I did games in a week, I wasn't ever really sure I'd finish something. But now when I'm working on this larger project, Broken Brothers Deluxe, for probably the next 6 months, I have every confidence I'm going to finish it, because I finished 14 games. I know what it's about. I know all the different stages. If I wanted, I can do all the different little bits after you finish. After you put the EXE on the desktop, I know how to release patches, and I know how to do just inherently all the little things that crop up. Okay, so I'm going to buzz through this sort of quick because I think I'm going slow. I'm going to talk about working solo, the pros and cons thereof. The exact benefits of 7-day games, the methods I use to make 7-day games, miscellaneous good things if I have time, question and answer. So, working solo. The big pro is perfect team communication. I know exactly what I want to do. Sometimes, I have bad days. But it's a big deal. 2 people is sort of the worst team size, because you have to communicate. It's still very possible. I've made games with 2 people, but you have to communicate. You have to, all of a sudden, everything has to be verbalized. All of a sudden, you have arguments. Now, if you have 10 people, you've got the same arguments, except you've got one person who can manage the team, and you've got a lot more total labor output. One person is a really great team size. You get all these benefits. One of them is perfect communication and high efficiency. The second one is you get to do the way you want to do it. You get to make the game you want to make. You get to make it in the way you want to make. You get to use your personal style. It doesn't become a compromise. You don't argue whether or not you want to do this or that. It becomes sort of an extension of you. It becomes a very personal thing. which is good because people like style. People like it becoming a personal extension of you because when you boil it through a team, it doesn't necessarily come out like that. Whereas the really quirky, fun games that people are like, man, I have to buy that, they're generally made by one person, or the original concept is one person, and they have this sort of inherent style. You get all the money. Don't knock it. You take any number that would pay the rent, pay all your bills for a year, and divide it into 3, and all of a sudden you have a problem. You get to do whatever you want. That's the last pro. You just get to do whatever you want, which means you can work in the evenings. You can, Dan Tabar of Cortex Command works 4 hours a day, but he succeeded. And lots of indies work 12 hours a day. You know, you don't need to force your teammates to work with you. You get to do anything you want to do. Con, less total labor. This one's obvious. It's fairly easy to plan around. Don't try to make World of Warcraft cross with GTA, and you'll be okay. I see some of the people on the forums. It's like World of Warcraft, but with GTA. You have to deal with these. Basically, you have to deal with everything. But I hire my sound because I don't do music and sound effects. You work with a lot of different people. Even if you're working on your own, you're always going to have a little bit of contract work. It's not that big of a deal. The amount of sound work I give out is a couple of hours, whereas I put in, huge numbers of hours for the actual game. But these 4 are core. Most of the people who are considering getting into game design will have some strength in one of these. And the thing is, even if it's not your strength, I come from a programming design background, so art was an alien language to me. But you have to have, I don't want to say skilled, you have to have energy for each one of these things. You, even if you don't do the art, have to make sure that your artist is doing good art. You need to work with him, you need to integrate it into the game, you need to go check out feedback on forums and make sure he's actually doing good art and not scamming you. You need to have a certain amount of energy for each one of these 4 categories. Even though my games have sucked in sound in the past, there are areas, lots of subcategories that you can't ignore. But these 4 are critical. You can't just, and I put business in there specifically because you can't just ignore it. It's not as much of a pain in the ass as you think, but you have to have some energy for it. Yeah, working solo, like I said, prone to failure over long time periods. This happens to everybody. It's not you, it's not the fact that your work ethic isn't strong enough. We're all human, we have limits. You can't say, I'm going to work in my basement in a void for 6 years and expect to come out with something. It's better to plan for your natural human flaws and go, all right, but I can be really passionate for 3 months and make this awesome little thing. You pay for everything. Yeah, the con. That's pretty self-explanatory. It's not as expensive as you'd think. Like I said, my first game was $5,000. I didn't pay myself salary, so that was costs. And I worked a job for most of it for the first 6 months, so I paid for it directly out of that. You just have to skimp and save a bit. Or start with savings. Savings is a wonderful way of doing games. The con, doing whatever you want. Yeah, there were time periods where I could laze off for an entire month. Like I could literally laze off for an entire month, and it wouldn't come back and bite me in the ass until the end of the month, in which case it would be pretty severe. So this is where work ethic comes in. And first advice is just have work ethic. Throw out your television, do some work. But second advice is go hang out with indies in your town. Go hang out with indies on forums. Chat together. It ups your work ethic. It makes you want to go work. It makes you not want to change to other projects. So doing whatever you want is a con that you should plan for. If you have flaws, that's fine, but plan for them. Don't just ignore them. Hell, I have flaws. Okay, working solo is a great way to make very small games. I'm getting a little repetitive here. Labor shortage and other problems are minimized. The efficiency benefit is maximized. Lots of games grow out of small games. Here's some pictures. Audio Search. Portal came out in our vector drop. Everybody knows that. Crown Physics Deluxe, very sure. Yeah, this is directly repetitive because the one major penalty is you don't make any money. I'm going to say that again. It's okay, but you need to sort of focus on the concept of making games for free. There are slight differences. You can't approach everything in the same way. Well, budget's lower. Okay, so the direct benefits of 7-day games. This is the biggest one. It's on the top of the list. Practice. if I'm hiring someone as a game designer,